One man can change the world with a bullet in the right place.
And we're back. This is the New to Pew podcast, part of the BBR network. I go by the name of Max Fallis. Thank you very much for all your loving support and the applause. And before you say,
who the fuck is that guy?
Allow me to introduce my brother in arms, the one and only, the Bagman himself. What's going on, brother?
It's been a fun week. So I'm glad to be back recording with you. We're a little off schedule, but nobody else will know that, except now that I've opened my big mouth. And from what I understand, we have some listener mail about me opening my big mouth too.
You've got mail.
Do you have the email there from Armin?
Hell no, nigga.
No, I did not.
Of course not.
Look it up.
So that's okay. We'll skip ahead because Armin also took the liberty of texting me because he's also a good friend as well as a listener of the show, and he's been involved with various BlackBagResources projects over the years. Armin sent me a text earlier today correcting me when I said Dirty Harry carried a Colt Python. He was like, no, you dummy. The Colt Python is a 357. Dirty Harry carried a Smith & Wesson Model 29-2 and 44 Magnum. So thank you, Armin, for the correction. Go ahead, hit that one again.
You big dummy.
Yep. I get things wrong from time to time. I'm the first one to admit it. And I appreciate the corrections because we want to get the best information out to everybody that we can. I think he's working on sending another email about another episode because he found another error on my behalf. So I'm glad that I have a friend as a fact checker. And anytime you catch something like that or send us an email, Max will get them at New to Pew at BlackBagResources.com, and be sure to include your mailing address so we can send you some New to Pew stickers as a thank you for participating.
Oh, thanks for listening, Stewie.
I had no choice.
As I always say, it's the will of the universe. Because now we know people are listening to these conversations that we're publicly broadcasting on our own little homegrown network. So good. Shout out to the listening audience. Thank you for listening. Thank you for keeping
Armin.
us on the up and up when it comes to our facts and our fictions. So today
we were going back and forth. He's like, so am I the only listener? I was like, how dare you? I will have you know that our podcast is enjoyed by nearly a dozen people worldwide.
That's right. It's a baker's
I think we're actually above that.
Yes.
Which is good.
The numbers are in. We're a hit. At least we've exceeded our own expectations of nobody's going to listen to us but us, which is why we have cool sound effects because, this is really for our own entertainment. Having listeners is just a byproduct of us having these conversations. And today's conversation, tentatively titled, Getting Jacked Up on Supplements, Training Supplements. Getting Jacked Up on Training Supplements, because that's the best title we can come up with so far. We're going to talk about training at home. And, those who've been keeping up with the saga of Max's black foot and how much it matters to his safe. In case this is your first time listening, I dropped my new gun safe on my foot, and I'm currently nursing 2 broken toes. So I've been doing a lot of at-home training, dry fire exercises, commonly referred to as. And, this is, again, as I always say, it's the will of the universe. So not only did we have an episode about keeping your firearm safe at home, I believe that was episode 6 or 7, titled Keeping It Safe. Episode 10 is going to be about what Max is doing to pass the long days where he's not at work because he can't drive and he's sitting in his man cave garage with a paper target hanging on the wall, shooting lasers at it.
What happens when you put a workaholic on house arrest?
Jesus, I'm losing my goddamn mind. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I've gotten to the point where my to-do list tomorrow, I'm cleaning my condenser fan for my central air unit.
Oh my God.
Just because I think it'll be cooler in the house. Yeah. Yeah. So let's get back on track. Training at home.
So
let's go.
Dry fire. Dry fire is a key to improving accuracy, improving firearms handling at home. The first and most important thing I want to put out to our listeners, and the experienced folks have heard me say this probably a bajillion times already, but if you're new, welcome. The first thing I want you to do before you start dry fire practice is to remove all live ammunition from the training area. So if you're in the room, I want that ammo out of the room entirely. That way there is no opportunity for mistakes. So if this is a self-defense, home defense firearm that you normally keep loaded, you're going to go through your unload procedure, remove the magazine, clear the chamber, double check and triple check to make sure the gun is empty before you start any dry fire practice. Then you're going to take that ammunition and put it in a different room so that if you're using any of the training supplements that we're going to discuss later, or just using an empty magazine, you don't pick up the wrong magazine and accidentally load your firearm and cause an accident, because none of us needs that aggravation in our lives. And apart from just the brown in your shorts factor, we certainly don't want to risk injuring anybody else in the house, any of those things. So you're going to maintain your safe direction. You're going to do all your firearm safety stuff, but specifically removing that ammunition from the room entirely is a key to this. So from there, if you're not using any training supplements, you can just practice dry firing. And if it's a handgun, you're going to rack the slide, practice your trigger pull, practice your holster draw, practice your reloads. All those things are great and cost you nothing more than the cost of the firearm. So if we're going to jump into supplements, additional tools you can use to improve your dry fire experience, pull some more metrics, learn some more things, you can add some things. So there's the Mantis training system, which I believe is one that you're using, Max.
I believe so. It's called the Pink Rhino.
Yes.
Yep. Well, that's for the handgun.
The Pink Rhino is the cartridge, right?
Correct. Yep.
And they've got a bunch of different names for their different products. There's the Blackbeard that's for working with your AR. There's a whole bunch of these things. They're all great. They all serve the purpose. And the best thing is you're using your actual firearm. So if you're someone who does not have a whole bunch of guns, you've got one gun and you're still kind of new and you really want to practice with your gun so that you're familiar with your grip, your trigger, your sights, that's a great way to go, because you're now interacting with that firearm more. You can also use, what's it called, the X10 system.
That which maybe, sure. I'm not going to argue.
Which tracks where the laser hits.
Oh, okay. So
right.
What I'm doing, I went through a bunch of different apps on my phone. So most places are selling you a complete kit with the laser cartridge, the app, paper targets, and literally like a 5 Below stand for your phone. I had half of that already, so I have like an actual camera stand, which gives me the right height. I'm 6'2". This little table stand is not going to work because the area I have it set up, it's a clear shot to the pun intended. It's a clear shot to the driveway door where my area of fun is. So I have a target taped onto the ceiling, hanging down, and I set the stand up to my phone on it, and it tracks where the laser hits. There's one I know called Dry Fire, and that gives you the countdown timer, shot timers. There's one called Laser Academy. That's the one from Mantis. That's their own proprietary app. There's a Strikeman, which is another kit that is readily available. And again, from my perspective and point of view, they all work the same way. They're all just tracking that laser that you're putting inside your gun. And really thinking about it, the concept alone is very easy to understand how it's really tracking. And like you were saying earlier, it allows someone to get more and more comfortable with their actual firearm. G-Sight is the one that I'm using, the actual target. It's got the timer, the shot counter, all built into one app. And you can download free targets from their website, print it out, and literally it's just the size of a piece of paper. And they were identical to the ones that I use, as opposed to using the circles. I'm using the ones that are like cardboard cutout almost. So
a silhouette or like an IDPA target.
Correct. So that for me felt like the mixing of all the different elements I could find literally for free off the internet. Like, okay, I got the free app. I paid maybe $20 for the cartridge himself, again, off Amazon. And the targets, one of my at-home projects was to get my printer working again, and that was a great excuse to get that to work. So that's my whole setup. And to touch on what you said earlier about the safety, being that I had so many extra magazines, I have one set of magazines on my what I call the practice belt. I have my holster, 3 magazines. They're never loaded. I actually marked them, and I never put it with my ammo. I moved the belt to a different spot, so that stays totally separate. All my ammo is, secured. And the two never meet because I have, without saying too much, I have one set for home defense, I have another set to go to the range, and I have my practice set. So there's literally 3 sets of mags that never commingle. And again, run the safety check. I'm beginning to realize that I have this, I call it a tick. When I slide check, I actually blow down the hole.
That's what she said. Michael, please.
Just as a way of triggering my memory.
The chamber?
Yeah, just a way of triggering my memory that I did it. It's something that I do at work when when you open up a valve or something, I'll snap my fingers to imprint a memory of me doing it. That way, if I'm riding down the road from the job site, did I do that? Yeah, I do remember doing it. Okay, good. So it's a way of kind of creating a memory, and it's
you've got like a little mnemonic device that gets you to recognize that it's done, and that's good because in classes, what we've told people, and this comes from NRA, is that you're gonna check the chamber, look at it, look away, and then look at the chamber again and make sure there's nothing in there.
Yeah.
And I've done it where I've tested students where they look at it, and when they look away, I've got pretty quick hands sometimes. I can throw a cartridge in there and they turn and look, and now there's a dummy round in there, and they go, wait a minute, that wasn't there a second ago. And I go, okay, well, this is why we double check.
Make sure you're really paying attention.
So, yeah. But that's good that you've developed your own system for that to reinforce that with yourself. I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, again, part of my OCD of having designated compartmentalized magazines for each function.
You've segregated everything.
That's right. You're absolutely right.
That's racist.
But it helps me stay safe, and it helps me be comfortable enough to literally dry fire in my garage, and my kids are like walking past that, they see Dad doing his thing, and they just walk back away. Nobody's coming in the room, and my kids and my wife know what's going on, so they see Daddy doing his exercises. And now that I'm home, it's like part of my daily workout. I do 100 draws is what I call it. So after going through the whole fiasco with the Amazon holster, which was referenced in another episode, now I got it all set up. I got a little dump pouch on the belt, so I can experience mag changes and practice this, practice that, practice turning my light on my handgun, because that's on the same side as my trigger finger. So even that, and I've gone as far as even nobody's going to be able to see it, but there's a curtain behind me here. The target is on the other side of the curtain, so I can move outward to practice coming around a corner, hit the target, go back in. So I'm getting more and more creative because I got so much time on my hands and limited spaces. The next time the family goes out, I'm putting up targets around the house, and I'm running through it like an obstacle course to see how many hits I can do stuff.
Listen, and that's something I've always advocated for, right? If you're planning on, so I forget where the quote originally came from, but I got it from Mike Wolf, and what he says is the body will never go where the mind has never been. So until you teach yourself to do it, you can't expect to be able to perform well under stress. You're not going to, like, somebody breaking into your house and attempting to harm your family is a bad time to try to learn new skills.
Yeah.
So if you familiarize yourself with all those things in advance, it's going to make it easier, God forbid that ever happens, and hopefully yield a better outcome. So the fact that you're doing that, and that's something I've had my wife do, something we've practiced together, every place we've lived together too, it's been, okay, so what are our fallback points? What are the points where we know are kind of choke points in the house that we can kind of draw our line in the sand? And you can give verbal commands too in self-defense. That's a big part of it. You tell people, like, I've got a gun, get out of my house, get away from me, get out, like whatever commands you feel are necessary at that time. And you can tell them, don't come in here, I'll shoot you.
Stop. Or my mom will shoot.
You've given them the opportunity to retreat and get away from you. And if they advance past that point, it's probably going to hold up pretty well in court that you did everything you could. So while it's tactical and cool to practice clearing your house, it may not actually be necessary, but it's all skills that you can work on, and there's no reason to not do it. So getting back to the actual supplements, you've got paper targets, you've got a dedicated set of training gear, belt, mags, your pink rhino cartridge that is a laser emitter that goes into the firearm. You've got practice area dedicated. You've kind of taken this way beyond what most people do. A lot of people just kind of, while they're watching TV, practice in front of the TV. Other supplements.
That's a bad habit of mine to just go hardcore with everything, but
well,
it has benefits.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with it when you're reaping benefits from the behavior, right? If it was toxic, then I would say yeah, but you're very well rounded and very skilled when you do those deep dives on things. So I don't ever feel the need to criticize someone for being such a nerd about anything. That's part of what is going to make you good at it. So
true, very true.
Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And if they do, you send them to me.
You got it.
Other training supplements you can use, though. The other one, and again, this came from Mike Wolf over at Justifiable Force. He introduced me to the CERT laser trainer. I've been using that for several years. The nice thing about the CERT is that it's not a firearm. So with your gun and either the Mantis X or the Pink Rhino or any of these things that attach or go into an actual firearm, you're limited by your state laws as to where you can transport that firearm to practice with it. Because the CERT is not a firearm, it's a dedicated training tool. I don't have to worry about transportation restrictions with that. Now, I'm going to be careful not to brandish it, show it in public where people may think it's a real firearm, do anything stupid with it. But I've done training programs at Martial Strength Training Academy. I've done training programs for East Coast Martial Arts Institute. I've been approached by a couple other schools to set up programs for them. And the nice thing about that particular tool is you can take that anywhere and not have to worry about running afoul of the law as far as transportation. So what the CERT is a complete dummy gun with 2 laser emitters in it. So one is where your round is going to go, and the second one is for an instructor to see where your trigger breaks. So, and you can switch that off. So if you're just training by yourself, you really don't need the what I'll call the training dot, or the instructor dot. That laser is a great system, and you can use this for force on force without risk of injury. Obviously, you're not going to point at anybody's face because you don't want to hit them in the eye with a laser. But the fact that it's a completely inert training tool is great for so many applications. Now, the limitations are the slide doesn't move. While the magazine does eject, you can't rack the slide when you're doing a reload. You're limited to the types of firearms that they've decided to mimic. So right now they have one that's similar to a Glock 17. They have one that's similar to a Smith & Wesson M&P. They've got a little compact model that I forget what it mimics, but it's got a ridiculously heavy trigger. I didn't care for that one at all. But the one that looks like the Glock 17 is the one I use. I carry full-size Glock 22, which is the 40 Smith & Wesson equivalent, full size. I'm sure somebody's going to have something to say about me carrying a 40. Whatever. We'll deal with that hate mail when it comes. Again, send that to new2pew at BlackBagResources.com.
You've got mail.
But the trigger's very similar. The sights are very similar, and it's a good training tool. So for people that want to train rifle as well as handgun, Mantis X has their Blackbeard system, which again is a bolt carrier group and magazine that goes into your actual firearm. It's got a system in there that I believe resets the trigger.
Yeah.
And it goes dead when you remove the magazine. The battery pack is actually in the magazine. So if you remove the magazine, the laser doesn't function, which is a neat trick.
I saw a video. I always pronounce this guy's name wrong. Coleon, is that how you say it? Something like that?
Coleon Noir, yeah.
Yeah, he did a promo video for that, and it looks like a great idea for my Christmas list. And I messaged them, the manufacturer. I said, you know, can you buy separate magazines, because the battery is in there. You take the magazine out. If you have a secondary magazine, it'd be great to work on magazine changes as well.
Do real mag changes instead of just pulling it out and putting it back in. Sure.
Right. Yeah. And they said they're definitely available for individual purchase. So that may be my Christmas list, or technically my birthday is coming up soon. So why not that? And I like the fact that it's its own bolt carrier group and magazine. So you're literally you're opening the gun up, taking the thing out, putting the safety. It's a lot like the Mantis system that I use essentially for my handgun. And it's
correct.
Definitely something that I'm looking into purchasing for sure.
Yeah, it's a great system. CERT has a different option. They call it the stick, and it's basically a AR shell that goes onto the CERT pistol. So the pistol goes into this thing kind of like a Roni kit or a Command Arms kit with a live firearm, but that converts it into an AR pattern training tool.
Right.
I haven't had a chance to play with that yet. Jason over at East Coast Martial Arts in Toms River has been sending me pictures. He got his hands on his, and he's tormenting me on a fairly regular basis that I need to come down and train with him and practice with that. So those are laser options that are great, and you've got tracking software and all those things that can pull a lot of data for you. If you want something just really simple, there's a company called Dry Fire Mag that makes a dummy magazine for your firearm that will reset the trigger and do all those things. And again, you're using your firearm. There's no laser involved, and I don't believe it's compatible with the laser system yet, but you don't need to rack the slide in between shots because it's going to reset your trigger for you. So that's a cool one. Another one out there is Barrel Block, and that is a chamber, basically a chamber flag. So this is going to go into your firearm down the length of your barrel through the chamber and ensure that you are completely inert with that firearm at that point. It's got markers on it so that you can see it's inserted, sticks out the magazine well, it sticks out through the chamber, or sticks out well, one of the two, and then also sticks out the end of the muzzle so that you can see this firearm is completely cleared. And at that point, I'm going to tell you that I have an affiliate link for CERT and a coupon code for you, but you're not going to use mine. We're going to go to this episode's sponsor, WakefieldUSA.com. My very good friend Ray is an excellent firearms instructor, owns WakefieldUSA.com, trains in Ohio and Michigan. And if you click on products, it will take you to all the order links for Mantis, CERT training, Dry Fire Mag, and Barrel Block. And he's got affiliate links and coupon codes, and using that would be a great favor to me and tremendously helpful for Ray and his business. And I would love to see you order from him. So he's got his coupon codes and affiliate links there. If you're listening to this episode, you're interested in any of those products, I want you to go to Ray's website, WakefieldUSA.com, place your order there.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting that in there, sir. Good job.
How about them apples?
Those apples are in season, as they say.
Crunchy and delicious.
So we've practiced, we being me, we've practiced drawing, target acquisition, trigger pull.
Right.
What else should we be practicing at home?
Holster draw. Mag reloads. If you're using a laser emitting system like the Mantis or the CERT, I also want you to practice shooting from different positions and seeing how hard it is to get on your sights and see where those shots go using that laser, so you can practice things like shooting from a seated position, shooting from supine, which is on your back. You can practice shooting from prone, which is on your stomach. You can practice shooting rollover prone, where you're kind of shrimped up in a ball, laying on your side, and maybe shooting under something. So if you think about self-defense outside your home, if you were caught in a gunfight and had to shoot somebody on the other side of your car, you may curl up into rollover prone so you can get a shot off under the vehicle.
That takes us back to yet another reference of another episode that we discussed. Isn't that how the guy took out the 2 gunmen in the California thing? Didn't you tell me that story? The guy shot him in the foot from underneath the car?
Bank of America robbery in Los Angeles. Yeah. So one of them was caught in a gunfight and I believe committed suicide. And then the second one was by the vehicle, and they were going back and forth, and somebody finally figured out, like, get under the car, skip rounds off the pavement and hit him in the legs. And then once that brought him to the ground, they were able to put shots on center mass and stop the threat that way.
An unorthodox shooting position, but still relevant and worthy of training for. I mean, do a couple reps down there, and the shrimping in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, they call it shrimping when you're on your side. But yeah, that's not. And in a home situation, you could, I would say, simulate it maybe by trying to get underneath your coffee table, like going.
Sure.
You know, that's probably the lowest piece of furniture you have that has a pathway.
Here's another one. If you're in your bedroom and someone enters your bedroom, you can curl up on the other side of the bed and shoot under the bed.
Yeah.
Right. Again, there's plenty of applications for this, and we can do a whole nother episode on applications of non-standard shooting positions. But the other thing everybody should be working on is shooting not just two-handed, but strong hand only and weak hand only, right? Or offhand, whatever way you want to describe it. So that weak hand isn't your weak hand anymore. It's just your other hand. Practice shooting with one eye, the other eye, both eyes. You know, you can work on every single one of those little skills at little to no cost and improve your shooting skills dramatically. There was, at one point, somebody was doing a 100 days of dry fire challenge. And anybody who did that saw phenomenal results improving their skills. Here's the other thing I'll tell you. I had students at the various martial arts schools who had never fired a real firearm before, and they were doing the training with me with the SIRT pistol. And after a couple of weeks of doing that, went to the range and did live fire on their own, had no problem hitting the target. So the proof is in the pudding, as they say, that, yeah, this will improve your shooting skills. And if you have no other foundation, this will help. You know, I've seen people who go from no shooting experience to live fire, and maybe they do okay, maybe they struggle. But the people that had never shot before, that were taking my class and using the CERT trainer and basically doing dry fire skills, then went to the range, performed pretty well, right? No misses, grouping well, their first time, no other instruction than that. And I think that speaks volumes about the benefits of dry fire training, whether it's with a laser simulator or not.
I have a theory that having the dry fire experience before live rounds, you don't have the anticipation of the kick, you don't have the anxiety of having a live wire, so you're more susceptible to the programming first, as opposed to having to get past the anxiety and get past the fear and then get the programming. You know, like when you did, when we were at Stu's spot and he snuck a couple dummy rounds in there to test me to see if I was going to be jumping when I pulled the trigger, like something like that. Being that, you know, my experience was live first, and then a couple of other things. So I think that may be why you had the successes for those people's, you know, possible, you know. And
you can, I forget what the psychology of it is, but you can only handle 3 new stressors at a time maximum. Once you exceed that, your brain kind of goes, yeah, I don't know what to work on, and things fall apart. So if you at least have the fundamentals of how to grip the firearm, how to aim the firearm, what the trigger is going to feel like, and then adding noise and deflagration and a projectile moving down range. It's fewer things you have to try to manage at one time.
Yeah.
So there's certainly a benefit there for sure.
Another thing, the auditory sound of not just your firearm, but the firearms next to you. Say if you're in an indoor range, you got lanes going back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
Personally speaking, when I go in to an indoor range, while I'm setting up, I'm turning off those frequencies that I'm listening to, like pow, pow, because when you first get in there, it's loud. It's not something you're hearing on the street. It's not a radio playing. It's a very distinct, powerful sound, especially on an indoor range where sound is bouncing around back and forth. It's almost 3 times as louder indoors than it is outdoors. And
and you can feel the concussion too because of the pressure wave, right?
Yeah, especially if somebody's next to you with something big and strong.
There is always, like, you want to go into the range and shoot your 22, and there is always some a-hole in the next port with a 308 AR-10 shooting at a target that's not even 10 yards away, and he's just blowing up the airspace.
Yeah, he ended up too. When I went with a friend of mine who has an AR, and it wasn't as ported as the one you helped me build, and I could see his barrel from the side of my lane, and it's just flames. It's 3 times as loud as my thing.
Fireballs. Yeah,
and I'm just sitting there like,
I'll get you, bitch.
Man, this is crazy. Like, I can feel your heat, bro. But so it's part of my deprogramming cycle of while I'm loading up my magazines and putting my target up, I'm hearing it and I'm soaking myself in it now. So when I'm getting ready for to put my work in, that's not distracting me at all.
Right.
Another thing I wanted to touch on before we wrap this one up, something I started doing after my visit with the glorious Dr.Zack with my shoulder. I had a shoulder issue, just for the listening audience, and the mighty Dr.Zack helped me snap things back into place. Before Dr.Zack, I would notice my shoulder fatigue. You're holding out a 10 to 15 pound item all the way out, and it takes, what is it, front delt or side delt, whatever shoulder anatomy it is. It takes muscle control and muscle strength and muscle endurance to keep your firearm out at a certain distance over and over repeatedly, and you get fatigued.
Correct.
And, it's like doing squats. Your muscles get tired from using them. So I started using, I think it's like a 10 or 15 pound dumbbell, and just presenting that and then pulling it back and presenting that just to simulate the weight, because I tense my shoulders up a lot. I don't know if it's stress or whatever, but I'm very shoulder oriented. And one of the things that I do want to work on is just dropping my shoulders and not carrying the tension in them, but also that's muscle that it takes to hold it out. So I've been like, I incorporated that in my workout routine of just present with a 15 pound, bring it back in, pull it up like I'm drawing. Like, it's literally the same actions of holster, present, and that's to build up shoulder endurance. Something I would recommend to people out there if they're looking to improve their endurance. I'll say it like that.
Sure. And you can practice all your fundamental skills, your sight alignment, hold control, trigger control, breath control, follow through. All those things come into play when you're doing your dry fire as well. But you mentioned Dr. Zack of Genesis Chiropractic in Long Valley, New Jersey. Phone number is 908-876-9188. Again, that's 908-876-9188. Dr. Zack, again, is a longtime friend of mine, and he needed some help with some firearm stuff, and I needed some chiropractic care, and we discussed that, and it turns out that he accepts my health insurance, and it was a life-changing experience. Yeah, Dr. Zack is a wizard and will improve your life. So there, you get to double dip your show sponsors this episode.
Sadly, no coupon code though for Dr. Zack. But just tell him
that's why you have an insurance card. That's your that's your coupon.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Dr. Zack.
So that's it for this episode. Be sure to check out the sponsors we mentioned earlier. If you want to join the conversation, you can email us at new2pew@blackbagresources.com. You can check out the website, blackbagresources.com. And if you really want to go deep, you can check out the Black Bag Resources Network and become a part of the community. Thanks for listening.